No, I had no idea you watched the show as a regular viewer, and I'm humbled to know that you were watching, because your story that I saw of your childhood was horrific, and you even downplay it by saying that you weren't really fearful. But if anyone can see Stephen's story, it's on YouTube. If you look up Stephen Kapos, you should find it on YouTube. And on Holocaust Memorial Day, you were invited to speak about your experience as a child, which would be very informative to anyone. Unbelievably, and I watched the show that you were on, and it was very educational. But unbelievably, the Labour Party wrote to you a few days before that to say that if you appeared on that show on Holocaust Memorial Day, you would likely be expelled from the Labour Party. Can you tell us how long you've been a member of Labour Party?
About 35 years, roughly.
35 years, yeah.
Yes. I joined when Tony Blair won the election, and there was a sort of general sense of anticipation and optimism, which was, of course, disappointed later. But I joined around that time.
Yeah. Now, what's happened
but
is...
I was always a Labour voter, of course, even before that.
Now, what I'm interested to find out is you got this email from London Labour saying if you spoke on this show on Holocaust Memorial Day, they would expel you. What's your response been to Labour?
Well, I thought this was unbelievable to Marr bearing witness to the Holocaust on Holocaust Memorial Day, regardless of what the platform was. I was invited and accepted to speak on it. I wasn't a member of the organization hosting it, Socialist Labour Network, SLN.
Yeah.
But yes, I was prepared to speak there or anywhere where they want to hear about the Holocaust experience, since there are fewer and fewer survivors left now. And it's important to have first-hand experience explained.
I mean, your story, just so people know a bit more, if they don't watch the video, which I really hope they do. I mean, I watched it, and you're taken away from your parents. You were in hiding from Hungarian fascists, and on occasion, there's a couple of things that stuck out for me. One was that you had to sit at a meal one time at Christmas in between German soldiers because they missed children at Christmas, and you were, I mean, if you'd been found out, that would have been the end. So, I mean, the idea that as a child you had to go through that, and also the extreme poverty that you had. I mean, the story of someone shooting a horse and everyone coming out with buckets to cut off bits of the horse to eat in a goulash, and you said it was the best goulash you'd ever eaten.
Well,
I just find that the story is so traumatic, and the fact that Labour has no sensitivity to that is unbelievable and appalling, really appalling. And I believe you've decided to write a letter to Labour. I'll shut up now. But I mean, if you could tell us what you said.
Yes, in response to the threat, which, well, it was very lightly disguised threat, say you may be expelled or you will be investigated. I knew the statistical chances of not being expelled after investigation started was next to zero, because statistics have been published about this kind of outcome. So I knew that that was practically forecasting being expelled if I accepted the invitation and spoke on Holocaust Memorial Day. So I had a choice of either standing back or not waiting for being expelled, which was almost inevitable. I resigned. I wrote a letter of resignation to the Labour Party and took part in the event all the same.
And would you read us your, if you can, I don't know if you can, your resignation letter?
Yes, I have it in front of me. This was in response to the letter from the Labour Party under the title of London General. And so their letter was dated the 24th, and I replied 2 days later with immediate effect. So I said, "Dear London General, thank you for your emailed letter of the 24th of January, giving me advance warning that I am likely to be expelled from the party if I were to speak from a panel as a Holocaust survivor at the SLN Socialist Labour Network webinar on the 27th January on Holocaust Memorial Day. The Holocaust is the most important single example of genocide, which at its worst descended into an industrial process of mass murder of millions. As a child survivor and one of the fewer and fewer still living direct witnesses to the Holocaust, I feel a compelling duty to bear witness and speak out about it at any platform that would invite me and to any audience ready to listen. I am an activist of Palestinian human rights and an active member of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign in its Camden branch. The defense of Palestinians living under a brutal occupation is very important to me, particularly as a Holocaust survivor. Palestinians live under a system of apartheid as recognized by Amnesty International and other major human rights organizations. Those are my political beliefs, which I claim are protected characteristics under the Equalities Act 2010. I am not a member of SLN, nor have I been following its activities, but via the book to be discussed on the 27th, I have a general understanding of SLN's views on present-day Zionism as a political movement, and on some of the actions of the Zionist movement during the Holocaust and World War II. I am in sympathy with some of those views on the grounds of my political beliefs mentioned above. I have personal experience of the Kastner project in Hungary, which was driven by Zionist ideology. My father was a victim of Kastner's scheme and ended up stranded in the Belsen and Theresienstadt concentration camps. I was myself briefly interned in a Kastner-run detention camp in Budapest. You make mention of Labour Party values. I learned about Labour values during my party activism in the period when Frank Dobson was our MP, and I worked in a warm and friendly atmosphere prominently on various election campaigns. Those values were very different to that of the present leadership, whose values permit intimidation, banning of discussion of some of the most vital political topics, disregard for the party's own rules and for natural justice, the drastic reduction of inner-party democracy, extreme factionalism, lack of support for striking workers. I do not share these values. Please accept my immediate resignation from the Labour Party, effective from tomorrow, i.e. from the 27th of January, 2023. Your attempt to effectively bar me from speaking about the Holocaust on Holocaust Memorial Day was the last straw for me. In the short term, the Tories are self-destructing, which may well bring the Labour Party into government soon. In the long term, the period of the party's history, this period of the party's history will be remembered with shame. This was when McCarthyism was revived and imported into the Labour Party and into the political life of the UK itself. Yours sincerely, Stephen Kapos. Copy to Keir Starmer MP, Sir Keir Starmer MP, and the Secretary Holborn and Pancras CLP. Please forward.
Wow. Thank you very much for reading that out and for coming on. There's lots of people sending you solidarity in the chat. And I'm going to put that video of you speaking onto YouTube, and I hope people can share that as much as they can, because I think this is one of the most disgusting decisions by Labour or threats by Labour I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
And yeah, please.
Yeah, Christian, can I just mention, I want to particularly emphasize what I said about the importation of McCarthyism. And I just want to, we sometimes refer to McCarthyism in a kind of general way, but I just want to mention a few aspects of why I think McCarthyism, in my own personal view, has reappeared within the Labour Party. Can I do that? Just
yeah, quickly? Sure, please. Yeah.
Aspects of McCarthyism, a political campaign based on, essentially, on a falsehood. Not Reds, anti-Semites under the beds. A denial of the false basis or the extent of it, of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party, is itself a crime to be rooted out, as Keir Starmer said. Contempt for evidence in connection with all the accusations that occurred. Atmosphere of intimidation generally being created. Guilt by association, which is another McCarthy characteristics. Various accusations leading to backlisting, proscription, loss of jobs, livelihoods of victims, say presently in academia. Digging back years into the past, into periods of irrelevant to the present accusations, ignoring natural justice and the party's own rules, and all of which adding up to a period of witch hunt of political opponents.